The Grand Council chamber was quiet, too quiet for such an important meeting. Long tables curved in a wide circle, and at the center, glowing with a soft blue light, stood the hollow projection of a planet in flames. The image shifted slowly, showing cities crumbling, smoke rising into the atmosphere and ships fleeing in every direction. The air felt heavy with fear, though no one spoke yet. The ones who had brought this image, delegates from the Veyari species, stood near the center platform. The Veyari were small, their skin pale and delicate, their voices thin and trembling. To other races they were known as scholars and artists, never warriors. Now they stood broken, their eyes wide with despair. "Our colonies are burning," said Elder Sareth, the leader of the Veyari delegation. His words echoed softly in the chamber, but every syllable carried weight. "The Greylock destroy without mercy. They do not enslave. They do not negotiate. They only destroy. We ask the council, please help us." Whispers broke out among the gathered council members. The towering Orixian delegate clicked his mandibles uneasily. The Lithari representative folded her feathered wings in thought. The Kelvran diplomat adjusted his crystalline mask but said nothing. The council leader, a calm, silver-scaled being from the Sarathi species, raised his hand to silence the whispers. "You have our sympathy, Elder Sareth, but sympathy is not enough. The Greylock are powerful. To face them would mean risking war on a galactic scale. Are you asking us to risk all for your people?" Sareth's fragile hands shook as he gripped the edge of the speaking platform. "We are not asking for sacrifice. We are asking for unity. If the Greylock destroy us, they will not stop there. They will come for you. One by one they will burn every world. Do you not see?" A heavy silence followed. Some council members looked away, unable to meet his eyes. Others tapped nervously on their data tablets, avoiding the weight of the plea. Finally, a Lithari counselor spoke, her voice sharp and cold. "Your words may be true, but the Veyari are weak. You have never fought wars. You have no fleets of your own. Why should we endanger our people for a race that cannot even defend itself?" The words cut deep. Sareth lowered his head, shame washing over him. His people were peaceful, yes, but peace had left them defenseless. For centuries they had believed diplomacy and art were enough to live in harmony. Now against the Greylock that dream was crumbling. Another voice rose, deep and rumbling. It was the Orixian delegate, his armored body towering over the others. "There is truth in what Elder Sareth says. If the Greylock burn one world, they will not stop. They will burn another and another. Still, our fleets are small. Our borders are fragile. We cannot win this war alone." The council chamber stirred again, filled with anxious murmurs. None wanted to take responsibility. None wanted to make the first move. It was easier to speak of fear than to act with courage. Sareth looked around desperately. His eyes glistened and his voice cracked with emotion. "If the council will not act, then who will save us? Who will answer our call?" A long pause followed, and then, from the shadows at the far end of the chamber, a soft but steady voice replied, "There is one." The speaker was an old Kelvran, his crystal mask glowing faintly in the dim light. His words drew every gaze to him. "There is one race that does not sit among us here. One race the council watches with suspicion, yet one that has never turned away from a fight when others called. Call the humans." The word spread like a ripple through the chamber. "Humans." The Sarathi leader narrowed his eyes. "Humans are not part of this council. They are outsiders. Their world is young compared to ours, and they come from a death world. Do you wish to unleash them upon this war?" "Better to unleash them against the Greylock," the Kelvran answered, his tone calm, "than to wait for the Greylock to unleash themselves upon us all." The Lithari delegate hissed softly, feathers ruffling with unease. "Humans are dangerous. Their history is full of wars. They fight even among themselves. They are unpredictable, reckless, and brutal when cornered. To call them is to invite chaos." But the Orixian delegate rumbled in agreement with the Kelvran. "Dangerous, yes. But that danger may be exactly what is needed now. I have read the reports of their endurance, their willpower. Their fleets are built for war. Their people shaped by the harshest world in known space. If anyone can meet the Greylock in open battle, it is them." Elder Sareth, who had never spoken of humans before, raised his head with a spark of hope. "Would they help us? They owe us nothing. They may refuse." The Kelvran's mask glowed brighter. "Perhaps, but they have a strange quality, one I have not seen in others. When they see injustice, when they see the weak crushed by the strong, they cannot look away. They will answer. The council chamber filled with divided voices, some fearful, some hopeful. The Sarathi leader struck the table to restore order. His eyes moved slowly across the delegates before him. Finally, he spoke with firm authority. Then let us decide. The council will not send its fleets, not yet. But we will send the call. If the humans answer, we will see what Deathworlders bring to this galaxy. Later, in the quiet of their quarters, Elder Sareth sat with his fellow Vayari delegates. His hands still trembled, but his eyes burned with fragile hope. "Do you truly believe they will come?" one of his aides whispered. Sareth looked at the stars beyond the window. "I do not know. But if they do not, then our people are lost. If they do," he paused, searching for the right words, "then perhaps the galaxy will see what it means for Deathworlders to fight not for conquest, but for justice." Far from the council, on the blue-green world of Earth, a signal pulsed through the void. It carried no command, no treaty, only a plea. The message was simple. "To the humans of Earth, we beg for your help. Our worlds are burning. The Grellic destroy us. If you will not help us for our sake, then help us so no one else suffers as we do." The signal reached orbiting satellites, then was relayed to Earth's fleet command. In a quiet operations room, officers gathered, listening to the trembling alien voice. For a long time, no one spoke. Then the fleet admiral leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. The humans had heard the call, and they would answer. The council chamber was filled again, but this time the mood was different. Days had passed since the signal had been sent. Many had expected silence. Others thought the humans would refuse, or worse, mock the plea. Instead, reports began to pour in from the edge of known space. Unknown ships had entered neutral territory, large, armored, and disciplined, ships that did not match any galactic registry. The council waited, holding its breath. On the viewing screens above the chamber, an image shimmered into focus. A fleet appeared against the backdrop of a distant star. Massive vessels, gray and steel with sharp lines and heavy plating. They were not elegant like the ships of the Sarathi, nor delicate like the crystal crafts of the Kelvran. These were built with one purpose: to endure war. Gasps echoed among the delegates. Some whispered in fear, others in awe. They came. Elder Sareth whispered, his voice trembling, though this time not from despair, but from relief. The humans came. The Orixian delegate leaned forward, mandibles clacking in approval. "Look at them. Their hulls are scarred from battles. Their engines burn with power. These are not fleets of peace. These are fleets that have lived through storms." The Sarathi leader narrowed his silver eyes. "And fleets that can bring storms with them." The first human ship broke formation and moved closer to the neutral station where the council awaited. It was enormous, dwarfing the vessels docked there, its hull painted with bold letters in human script, UNS Resolute. The docking clamps shuddered as the ship connected. The chamber lights dimmed as the airlock cycled. Every delegate turned toward the entrance, waiting to see the Deathworlders in person. The doors opened. The first human to step inside was tall, broad-shouldered, clad in a dark uniform. His face carried lines of age and command, his eyes sharp and steady. Behind him came others, officers, soldiers, aides, all walking with disciplined steps. There was no arrogance, no showmanship, only quiet confidence. The Sarathi leader spoke first. "Admiral of Earth, welcome. You have answered a call not your own. Why have you come?" The human admiral stopped at the center of the chamber. His gaze swept across the gathered species, then fell on the Vayari delegation. He saw their trembling hands, their weary eyes. Slowly, he placed his hands behind his back and spoke in a voice firm but calm. Because no one should beg for help and hear silence. The words carried through the chamber like a wave. Elder Sareth bowed his head, overcome with gratitude. Even the skeptical Lithari counselor seemed momentarily shaken. The admiral continued. "We received your message. We studied the reports of the Grellic. They destroy without reason. That is something humanity understands well. We have seen it on our own world. We have lived it. and we will not watch it happen again to others. You speak of war, the Sarathi leader said carefully. Do you not fear it? The Greylock are strong. The Admiral's lips curved slightly, though it was not quite a smile. Fear it? No. We prepare for it. That is the difference. The humans spent the next days in discussion with the Council. They studied maps of Greylock advances, listened to accounts of destroyed colonies, and calculated supply routes. Unlike other races, who hesitated, humans moved with decisiveness. Every problem was met with a plan. Every obstacle was met with solutions. Alien observers were unsettled by the speed of their work. Human officers filled entire walls with star charts, arrows, and notes, debating strategy with energy that left others struggling to keep up. Their technology was not the most advanced, but their efficiency was unmatched. They think like predators, the Lithari whispered uneasily, watching from the sidelines. Every move calculated, every weakness studied. It is frightening, but the Orixian delegate rumbled with respect. It is strength. They fight as if the battle is already inside their bones. The Vayari delegation was invited aboard the Resolute. For the first time, they saw a Deathworld vessel up close. The corridors were plain metal, built for function, not beauty. Soldiers marched with quiet discipline. Weapons lined the armories, machines hummed in the hangars, and shuttlecraft waited, ready to deploy. To the Vayari, it felt overwhelming, even intimidating. Yet the humans treated them with kindness. A young Vayari aide, timid and frail, was startled when a group of human engineers passed by. One of the humans knelt down, offering a small smile. Don't worry, you're safe here. The words were simple, but they carried a warmth that eased the aide's fear. Elder Sareth walked beside the Admiral, still struggling to understand. You come with such power, Admiral, yet you do not use it to conquer. Why? The Admiral paused at a window where the stars stretched endlessly beyond. Because we remember what it means to be conquered. Our history is filled with war, yes, but also with lessons. We know what happens when the strong prey on the weak. We swore long ago that we would never let it happen again. Not if we could stop it. Sareth's eyes filled with tears. Then you are not only warriors, you are guardians. The Admiral did not reply, but his silence was enough. Back in the council chamber, debates continued. Some still feared humanity. The Lithari warned, once unleashed, humans may never stop. What if they turn their fleets on us next? But the Kelvern delegate shook his crystalline mask. No, look at them. They fight not for conquest, but for protection. That is what makes them dangerous, not to us, but to those who seek to destroy. The Sarathi leader finally turned to the Admiral. If you commit to this war, know this. The Council will not follow. Not yet. We will watch and we will see. Are you still willing to stand against the Greylock alone? The Admiral's voice was steady. We are never alone. Humanity stands together. And now we will stand with the Vayari. The day the fleet departed, the station shook with the roar of engines. One by one, the human ships disengaged from their docks and formed up in tight formation. Their hulls glimmered under the starlight, rows upon rows of warships stretching farther than many council species had ever seen in one place. The Vayari. Delegations stood at the viewing window, their hearts pounding. For the first time, hope rose within them. Not fragile, desperate hope, but strong and solid. As the fleet turned toward the dark reaches of space where the Greylock hunted, Elder Sareth whispered, "They came for us." Beside him, his aide asked, softly, "Do you think they can win?" Sareth's gaze followed the ships as they vanished into faster-than-light jump. His voice was steady now, stronger than it had been in weeks. They are Deathworlders. They do not come to lose. Thus began the march of humanity's fleet. Not for conquest, not for glory, but for the simple belief that no cry for help should ever go unanswered. And for the first time in the history of the galaxy, the stars themselves seemed to wait, holding their breath, for what the humans would do next. The stars stretched endlessly around the human fleet as it emerged from faster-than-light travel. The Resolute led at the front, its steel hull shining faintly against the distant sun. Behind it, dozens of ships formed a wall of power: cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and support vessels. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Hayes stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes studied the map projected above the table. Red markers glowed, showing the last known positions of the Greylock raiders. Green dots represented the human fleet. Between them was a small, fragile blue light, a Veyari colony world. "Status?" Hayes asked. "Enemy fleet detected," replied Commander Leon, her voice crisp. 32 Greylock warships, smaller than ours but fast. They are already in orbit of the colony. They've begun bombardment. Hayes' jaw tightened. "And the colony?" "Shields failing. Civilian transports trying to escape, but the Greylock are firing on them. Estimated survival time, less than 1 hour." The Admiral turned to the viewing window. There, far ahead, the colony world was visible, half its surface already scarred with burning lines. Tiny ships, escape craft, darted frantically, pursued by larger enemy vessels. Even from this distance, the destruction was clear. "Bring us in," Hayes ordered. "Full formation. Signal to all ships, prepare for battle." The bridge crew moved swiftly, hands flying over consoles. Engines roared, weapons systems came online, and one by one the ships of humanity advanced. From the colony below, the Veyari survivors looked to the sky. Flames consumed their cities, and the thunder of Greylock bombardments shook the ground. Many thought it was the end. But then the horizon lit with streaks of light, faster than light trails cutting across the black void. Hope flickered. "They came," whispered one colonist, clutching his child close. The humans came. The Greylock ships turned as the human fleet arrived. Their vessels were jagged and predatory, built like weapons themselves. The lead Greylock warlord sent out a transmission, his voice growling in the common tongue. "Who dares interfere? This world is ours to burn," Admiral Hayes replied, his tone cold and steady. "This world belongs to its people. Leave now or be destroyed." The Greylock warlord laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "We will add your bones to the ashes." The transmission cut. Moments later, the Greylock fleet surged forward. The first clash shook the void. Human ships opened fire with disciplined precision. Rail cannons thundered, launching slugs at incredible speeds. Energy lances cut through the black, burning into enemy shields. Missiles streaked across space, guided with ruthless accuracy. The Greylock responded with savage fury. Their weapons were less advanced, but they struck with sheer volume, streams of plasma fire pouring toward the human line. On the bridge of the Resolute, alarms rang as the first enemy volleys hit. Shields flared but held strong. Hayes gave no sign of fear. "Hold formation. Focus fire. Make every shot count," and the humans did. Where the Greylock fought with chaos, the humans fought with order. Each target was chosen, each strike coordinated. The first Greylock ship exploded in a blossom of fire, then a second, then a third, but the Greylock did not retreat. They swarmed like predators, darting around larger vessels, trying to overwhelm them with speed. A human destroyer took heavy fire, its shields collapsing. Flames burst from its side as it spun out of formation. "Rescue crews launching," Commander Leon reported. "Cover them," Hayes ordered. "No one gets left behind." In the middle of the chaos, a group of civilian transports tried to flee the planet. Greylock ships moved to intercept, their weapons primed. But before they could fire, human fighters screamed into the fray. Small agile craft launched from carriers, weaving through enemy lines. Their guns blazed, tearing into Greylock hulls. One by one, the enemy vessels fell. The civilians slipped past, safe. In the council chamber, light years away, the delegates watched live transmissions. Many had doubted the humans. Now, as they saw the Deathworlders fight, their doubts turned to awe. The Lithari delegate whispered, feathers trembling. "They fight like storms," the Orixian rumbled with pride. "No, they fight like warriors who refuse to fall." Back at the battle, the tide began to turn. The Greylock were fierce, but they had never faced opponents like this. Humanity adapted quickly. Each time the enemy tried a new tactic, the humans countered with speed. But the Greylock warlord was not finished. His flagship loomed larger than the rest, bristling with weapons. It surged toward the Resolute, guns blazing. "Enemy flagship closing," Commander Leon reported. "Bring us nose to nose," Hayes ordered. His officers turned in shock. "Admiral?" He nodded firmly. "They expect us to flinch. We don't flinch." The Resolute surged forward straight into the path of the Galactic flagship. Plasma blasts tore across its shields, rattling the hull, but it did not slow. The human warship answered with everything it had. Rail slugs pounding, missiles streaking, energy beams searing across the void. The two flagships exchanged fire at point-blank range, space itself alight with fury. Inside the Galactic bridge, the warlord snarled. His prey was not breaking. His prey was fighting back. And then, with one final salvo, the Resolute's cannons pierced through the Galactic's core. The enemy flagship erupted in a massive explosion, fragments scattering like falling stars. The remaining Galactic ships hesitated. For the first time, fear flickered among them. They turned, engines burning bright, and fled into the darkness. The battlefield was silent at last. Debris floated in the void, broken ships drifting slowly. Fires burned, shields flickered, but the human fleet still stood. On the surface, the Veari colonists emerged from shelters, looking to the sky. They saw the human ships in orbit, standing guard. For the first time in weeks, they felt safe. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Hayes exhaled slowly. Status? Casualties reported, but manageable, Commander Leon replied. Several ships damaged, one destroyed. Civilian transports safe, Hayes nodded. Good. Then we've done our job. He turned toward the stars where the Galactic had fled. His eyes were hard. This was only the beginning. They'll be back. And when they come, we'll be ready. News spread across the galaxy. The humans had faced the Galactic and won. Not with overwhelming numbers, not with superior technology, but with unity, discipline, and willpower. In the council chamber, silence followed the broadcast. The Sarathi leader finally spoke, his voice low with awe. The Deathworlders do not fight as others do. They fight as if every battle is life itself. Elder Sareth, standing proudly now, whispered a single truth. They came for us, and they did not fail. Thus ended the first battle between humanity and the Galactic. It would not be the last. But for the galaxy, it was enough to know one thing. The Deathworlders had risen, and they would not stop until the stars themselves were safe. The first battle had ended in victory, but the humans knew it was not the end. Admiral Hayes stood on the Resolute's bridge, staring at the star maps projected before him. Red markers spread across the display showing Galactic movements. They were not retreating, they were gathering. The enemy has shifted, Commander Leon reported. Their fleets are massing in 3 sectors, they've doubled their numbers. Hayes nodded grimly. They'll come back stronger, they always do. Word of the battle spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Some celebrated, others grew uneasy. The humans had proven themselves in combat, but the Galactic were relentless. Now the war was growing larger. On the Veari colony world, survivors rebuilt their homes under the shadow of human ships. For the first time, children played without fear, watched over by towering human soldiers. Where once there had been despair, now there was hope. One young Veari asked a human marine, "Why do you fight for us? We are not your people." The marine knelt down, his armored figure lowering to meet the child's eyes. "Because it's the right thing to do. Someday, when others need help, maybe you'll remember this and stand for them too." The word spread among the Veari like a seed planted in the soil. The Galactic answered quickly. Their next strike was not against the Veari alone. It was a full-scale assault on neutral trade routes. Civilian convoys vanished, stations were burned, and planets trembled under sudden raids. Humanity's fleet moved to intercept. The battles grew fiercer. The Galactic adapted, sending larger numbers, using hit-and-run tactics, and setting traps in asteroid fields. But the humans adapted faster. Their ships changed formation mid-battle. Their captains learned from every loss, and their engineers rebuilt vessels stronger than before. The galaxy had never seen such relentless determination. One battle was fought on the surface of a frozen moon. A Galactic strike force landed trying to seize resources. The Veari defenders were weak, their soldiers untrained. But humanity sent Marines. The conditions were brutal, temperatures that froze fuel lines, storms that blinded sensors. Most species would not survive such an environment. The humans thrived in it. Wrapped in armor, carrying heavy packs, they marched through blizzards as if the cold was nothing more than an inconvenience. When the Galactic attacked, expecting easy prey, They were met by a line of humans who refused to break. The Marines fought in silence, their weapons steady, their movements precise. Where others would have fallen, they endured. By the end of the day, the Gralak were forced to retreat, leaving behind frozen wreckage. The Veyari soldiers who witnessed it whispered among themselves, "How do they survive such worlds?" The answer was simple. Earth itself was a world of storms, deserts, ice, and fire. The humans had been shaped by hardship. To them, a frozen moon was only another battlefield. At the council, arguments raged. The Lithari delegate warned again. The humans grow stronger with every battle. If they win this war, what will they do next? Will they turn their weapons on us? But Elder Sareth stood, no longer trembling, his voice clear. You fear them because they are strong. But I tell you this, their strength is not for conquest. Their strength is for protection. They are dangerous, yes, but dangerous to the ones who bring destruction. Not to us. The Orixian delegate rumbled in agreement. I have seen their battle reports. I have seen their losses. They do not hide them. They mourn their dead, yet they fight on. This is not the way of conquerors, this is the way of guardians. The council leader remained cautious, but even he could not ignore the tide of events. Humanity was becoming the shield of the galaxy, whether the council admitted it or not. The war escalated further. The Gralak unleashed their largest fleet yet, a wall of ships that darkened the stars. They struck at multiple systems, hoping to spread the humans thin. Admiral Hayes studied the reports with calm focus. They're trying to divide us. We won't let them. He split the fleet, sending squadrons into dangerous regions where no other race would dare to go. Through asteroid belts, storm-filled nebulae, and gravity-warped systems, the humans chased the enemy. Each battle was brutal, each victory costly, but the humans refused to yield. Their willingness to take risks stunned the galaxy. Where council fleets would retreat, humans pressed forward. Where others would count the odds and surrender, humans fought until the odds no longer mattered. On one shattered world, the Gralak landed a massive army, turning cities into ruins. The Veyari begged for help. Humanity answered again. Marines dropped from orbit in steel pods, landing in the middle of burning streets. They advanced block by block, protecting civilians, fighting in close quarters where the Gralak thought themselves strongest. The battle lasted for days. When the humans ran low on supplies, they scavenged. When they ran out of fuel, they built makeshift engines. When they ran out of ammunition, they used whatever they could find, turning rubble into weapons. The galaxy watched through scattered transmissions, amazed. Other species had always assumed war was about numbers, technology, or wealth. The humans proved it was about willpower, as one Veyari soldier said afterward, staring at exhausted Marines who still refused to rest. They do not know how to quit. Slowly, allies began to rise. Inspired by the humans, small fleets from other races joined the fight. An Orixian squadron, armored and proud, took positions alongside human destroyers. Kelvran engineers offered their crystal technology to repair damaged ships. Even a few Lithari warriors, once distrustful, volunteered to fight in the skies. Humanity had started alone. Now they were building something greater. A coalition of the willing, bound not by treaties, but by shared courage. In the quiet, after another victory, Admiral Hayes stood at the viewport of the Resolute. The stars stretched endlessly, dotted with faint wreckage of fallen ships. Commander Leon approached. We've won again, Admiral, but the Gralak are still out there. They'll gather more fleets. Hayes nodded. His eyes were tired but steady. Yes, and we'll keep fighting until they can't gather fleets anymore. Do you think we can win this war? She asked softly. He turned, his gaze firm. We don't think in terms of winning or losing. We think in terms of surviving. And as long as one ship flies, as long as one human breathes, we haven't lost. Back on the Veyari homeworld, children painted pictures of human ships, their gray hulls cutting across black skies like shields of light. The frail species, once hopeless, now began to train soldiers of their own. Their leaders no longer begged. They planned, prepared, and stood tall. They had seen the Deathworlders fight, and they had learned that courage was not about being fearless. It was about standing when fear told you to fall. The war had escalated, yes. The battles were larger, the risks greater, the losses heavier. But with every clash, humanity proved one unshakable truth. They did not fight for themselves alone. They fought for everyone who could not stand. And slowly, one battle at a time, the galaxy began to believe in them. The galaxy shivered under the shadow of the Gralak's final armada. Hundreds of their warships stretched across the void like a black wave, a wall of death and destruction. Behind it, hidden in the distance, their superweapon loomed, a massive construct capable of annihilating entire planets in a single strike. On board the Resolute, Admiral Hayes stared at the display. The red markers of the Gralak fleet spread like fire across the projection. His jaw was firm, eyes sharp. Beside him, Commander Leon ran through battle calculations, supply lines, and fleet positions. "They'll hit the Veari homeworld first," she said. "If we don't stop them, nothing will survive." Hayes nodded. "We won't let that happen. Signal all Allied fleets. Every ship capable of firing, every fighter that can fly. Prepare for the final engagement." The Resolute's engines hummed as the fleet moved into formation. Ships from dozens of races had joined the humans now. Orcian dreadnoughts, Kelvran cruisers, even a small contingent of Lithari fighters. The coalition was not perfect, but it was determined, and determination was enough. In orbit above the Veari homeworld, civilians huddled in shelters. Many had survived previous attacks, and now hope had returned in the shape of human and allied ships. Children peeked through windows of reinforced buildings, watching the sky with wide eyes. "They're here," whispered one Veari mother holding her child. "The Deathworlders are here." Below, on the planet's surface, human marines and allied troops moved into defensive positions. Turrets were erected, supply depots reinforced, and evacuation routes prepared. The ground shook as distant engines approached, a low rumble that promised fire and fury. The Gralak fleet appeared first in orbit, their warships bristling with weapons. The superweapon, a massive sphere surrounded by glowing energy rings, followed slowly behind. Its shadow darkened the planet, signaling doom to anyone who looked up. Admiral Hayes stood at the bridge viewport, hands clasped behind his back. "This is it. Hold nothing back. We fight for every life beneath us." The human fleet moved forward as one. Lines of ships advanced, weapons blazing, shields glowing under the stress of their engines. Missiles streaked outward, energy beams cut the void, and rail slugs tore through the enemy's outer formations. The Gralak responded with equal ferocity. Their flagship, larger than any human ship, surged into the center of battle. Smaller vessels darted around, attempting to flank the humans, while the superweapon began charging its energy. The first collisions were brutal. Human destroyers took heavy hits, shields flaring and hulls smoking, but where others might have faltered, the humans held their ground. Each maneuver was calculated, every strike coordinated. Allied ships followed their lead, inspired by the Deathworlders' courage. The Orcian dreadnoughts smashed enemy lines, while Kelvran cruisers repaired damaged human vessels mid-battle. The Lithari fighters darted through openings, attacking where the enemy was weakest. A human captain shouted over comms, "We've got the lead warship in our sights." "Focus all fire," Hayes ordered. "Take it down before it reaches the planet." Meanwhile, on the surface, human marines held the line against Gralak landing parties. They fought in streets turned to rubble, advancing building by building, securing civilians. For every attack, they countered with discipline, using tactics that no other species could imagine. One squad of Marines pushed forward through fire and smoke, holding the entrance to a Veari shelter. When civilians emerged, they were guided to safety, every step protected by the steady hands of the Deathworlders. A young Veari watched from behind a barricade. "How can they survive this?" he whispered. "How can they keep fighting when everything burns?" The answer came in a simple thought, echoing through the streets and the hearts of everyone watching. Because they do not stop. In space, the battle reached its climax. The human fleet had surrounded the Gralak superweapon, but it was nearly fully charged. One shot from it could obliterate the Veari homeworld entirely. Hayes's eyes scanned the display. We need a diversion. Get a strike team on that weapon. Fighters ready for insertion. Small fighter squadrons accelerated forward, weaving through the chaos of exploding warships. Missiles and energy fire streaked past them, but the pilots pressed on. On board the Resolute, Hayes coordinated every movement with precision, timing the attack to perfection. The strike team reached the superweapon, launching boarding pods that pierced the protective shields. Inside, humans fought Gralak guards with ruthless efficiency. Explosions rocked the interior as engineers planted charges to disrupt the energy core. Outside, the main battle raged. Human ships absorbed hits that would have destroyed other fleets. Destroyers fired continuously. Carriers launched endless waves of fighters, and every move was synchronized. The Gralak were strong, but their confidence faltered. The Deathworlders did not retreat, did not break, did not yield. Finally, a massive explosion rippled through the superweapon. Energy rings collapsed and the construct began to disintegrate. The fleet staggered as its core destabilized. Superweapon destroyed, came the cry from every human ship. Cheers echoed through comms channels even as the battle continued. The Gralak flagship, now leaderless, attempted to regroup. But the humans, together with their allies, pressed the attack. Rail slugs tore through its hull and energy beams cut deep into its engines. With a final massive blast, the Gralak flagship erupted into flames. The remaining enemy ships scattered, retreating in disarray. The galaxy had never seen such a decisive victory. As silence settled over the battlefield, the Veyari planet remained safe. Civilians emerged cautiously, looking up at the sky where the human and allied ships hovered in orbit. Fires still burned on the surface, but life had survived. Elder Sereth stood with his delegation, tears in his eyes. He turned toward the human fleet, his voice carrying over comms. "Thank you," he said simply. "You have saved our world, our people, our hope." Admiral Hayes's reply was steady and calm. "Next time you will not beg alone. Stand with us and we will stand together." The words echoed through the galaxy, a promise and a warning. The aftermath of the battle was not only survival, it was a change in perception. Where humans had once been seen as reckless and dangerous, now they were seen as guardians. Other species began to rebuild, inspired by their courage. Plans for alliances previously unthinkable were now under discussion. The Veyari, once fragile and timid, now trained their own soldiers. The Eryxians strengthened their fleet, the Kelvrans expanded their technology, and even the cautious Lithari began to volunteer for missions. All of them had witnessed humanity's endurance, and all had learned the value of willpower. In the quiet of the Resolute, Hayes walked the bridge alone. Stars stretched endlessly ahead, and for the first time in weeks he allowed himself a small moment of relief. Commander Leon joined him. "We did it. The Gralak are broken," he nodded. "Yes, but the galaxy will always have threats. And we will be here. Humanity will be here. Always." She looked at him, admiration clear in her eyes. "Do you ever wonder if they will understand what we've done?" He smiled faintly. "Some will. Some may never believe it. But those we saved will, and that is enough." Across the galaxy the story spread. Tales of Deathworlders who would not quit, who fought not for conquest but for protection, reached even the farthest corners. Children told stories of the Resolute, of railguns and Marines, of courage that refused to break. And wherever there was injustice, wherever lives were in danger, the name of humanity was now spoken with respect and hope. The galaxy had changed forever. The humans had answered a cry for help, and in doing so, they had reminded every species what it meant to fight not for glory, not for power, but for life itself. And in the vast black of space, ships still flew, ready to protect, ready to defend, carrying the legacy of Deathworlders whose strength was measured not in weapons, but in their refusal to surrender.